Hi, I'm Andrew, Dr Yogi. In this short tutorial, we're going to discuss what limits the movements that we make. I hope you enjoy it. So when we start to look at what limits the movements that we make, we can quite quickly realize that it's a complicated subject. So not only do we have the physical structures of our body that will limit us, but we're also limited by our emotions, by our fears, and our central nervous system has a big part to play in the movements that we make as well, and we'll look at that in a moment. But let's just spend some time now focusing on the physical structures in our body and how they limit the movement. In a very oversimplified way, we can look at this in two categories. We can look at compression and tension. Okay, so when we think of compression, we think of two forces coming together, and we think of a kind of a pushing effect. And this is normally to do with the bony architecture of our body. So each of us are completely unique and have a unique skeleton. And the actual shape of our bones, the way they're positioned, the size, and all the different variations will have an impact on how the different joints in our body move. There's also always asymmetry through the body. So you might be able to move the right side in a certain way, but the left side will be structured in a different way in terms of the bones, and that will make you move differently. Okay, so we'll come back to compression in a moment. The other side of that is tension, and tension is a pulling, okay, when energy is moving in the opposite direction. And there are certain structures that hold tension or create tension. The first is muscle, and the other is connective tissue. This includes fascia, that is a webbing that connects the whole body inside and out. And then we also have parts of the connective tissue like ligaments and tendons. We have different organs that get involved, and our skin is also something that limits the movement at times. So when we reach the limit of a certain movement, there is a kind of, again, a simplified way that we can start to explore what it is that might actually be limiting us. So I'm going to come to a forward fold to show you an example of that, okay? So in a forward fold with my legs together, if I start to move towards the limit of my movement, I may get to a position here where I feel like I can't move any further forward, okay? Now, the first thing I need to do is I need to explore where I'm feeling sensation. Now, if I feel like I'm feeling a sensation in front of the movement, so in this part here, say of my hip and pelvis area, okay, it is going to suggest to me that it's a compressive sensation. Okay, so it's actually compression that is stopping me, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But if I'm making a forward fold and I'm not feeling great sensation in the front, but I'm actually feeling sensation behind the direction of the movement, then it can suggest to me that it's tension that is actually limiting the movement. So for example, it could be very tight lower back muscles, tight gluteal muscles, or tight hamstrings, or it could be something to do with ligaments and tendons or fascia in that area, okay? So in whatever direction we're looking at, we can start to first of all think, well, where is the sensation that I'm feeling, and what direction is that? And that can help us to break down what actually might be happening. Let's come back to compression for a moment. So if I'm folding forward, I could find that it's my belly that's pressing into the muscle of my thigh that's stopping me. So a good way around that would be maybe to take the feet a little bit wider. Okay, so sometimes there's a way to move forward with this. And then I'll go a little bit further, and now I'll find that my belly's pressing into my thigh bone. Okay, so I can go a little bit wider with my legs, but eventually I'm going to get to a place where I can't move any further forward, and maybe my pelvis is now actually pushing into the thigh bone itself. So sometimes with compression, there are practical things that we can do to help to move forward, and then we'll reach a point where it's not really safe or practical to push any further, and that's just our natural limit, okay? In terms of tension, it's just a matter of, working with your body, staying with your breath, and maybe the musculature that's tight can over time lengthen, and this will allow you to move further forward. But eventually you will reach then a point of compression in most circumstances. So in another direction, if we look at Baddha Konasana, I've got quite open hips, but my hips do not move in this direction. So that's as far down as my knees will go. So instead of feeling tension here behind the movement, because my knees are moving in this direction, I'm actually feeling strong sensation here. I'm feeling like a pushing, okay, like a compressive force. So this is compression. So what I've realized is it's actually the bony architecture of my hip joints that have stopped me from moving my hips in that direction, and that's just something that I won't be able to overcome. So I hope that's useful. I mentioned earlier that the nervous system also has a part to play. The nervous system likes when we are able to control movement smoothly in and out, okay? So yoga is not just about the final expression of a pose, but it's also equally about the transitions. So when we make smooth, controlled, breath-led movement into a certain direction, the nervous system tends to like that, and it allows us to go there. But if we're making uncontrolled movement, not using the breath, then it's the nervous system that can actually stop us from making that happen. So the more mindful we are with the movement, the more controlled it is and breath-led, then we're more likely to make a little step further forward, unless it is compression that's stopping us. So I hope that was helpful. Maybe explore that in your own body with a particular movement that you're struggling with, and see if you can get a sense of what it is that might be limiting that movement. Thank you very much.